Hi everybody, Mark here with Rio Grande with a little video on files. Now files have been around a long time. Basically it's a tool that's rougher than this thing that you need to smooth out. And back in the day that used to be like a rock that they would use to smooth out a stick. So that was a very primitive type of file. And they've evolved over time as manufacturing got it got easier and more complex actually too. So it can be a little confusing on which kind of file you need to get started with, and also how to tell them apart and things like that. So real quick, files are going to come in a couple of different sizes. They're going to come in like an 8-inch hand file or a 6-inch or 4-inch needle file, and then they can go smaller from there. They come in different types like steel files or diamond files. Those are very common. To start off with, I'm going to talk about the coarseness of a file and how they're rated. This is a checkering file that we carry, and it's probably the coarsest file that we sell. So when you're filing, you're going to have to put down some pressure and actually kind of take out that metal. The neat thing about the checkering file is not only does it remove material, but you can use it for a checkered pattern if you want that kind of texture. It's kind of a clever little file. The next coarsest is going to be a number 0. Now how coarseness works on files is the lower the number, the more coarse the file. The more coarse the file, the more material you can remove at a time. So that'll make quick work of removing solder, but you might need to go in with a finer file to kind of clean up the marks from the coarser file, if that makes sense. So the lower the number, the more coarse the file, and the higher the number, the more fine the file. So this is number 0, and you can kind of see how the teeth are pretty pronounced right there. Then we're going to jump to a really fine file. This is like a number 4 file. This is what they call a finishing file. So this is something you might use after using a coarse file. If you had a nice big solder blob on your ring and you wanted to remove that, you probably wouldn't want to start with a number 4 because it would just take a long time to do that. It's actually quicker to go through a series of files to get to the finished product than just sticking with the number 4 and trying to get through it. So just bear that in mind. Neat thing about these files, this is a flat file, and they'll have this safe edge right here. So let's say you're trying to file something that's next to a bezel or another element that you don't want to file. Well, that's the safe edge, so you'd put that against there. Like say my finger here is a bezel, you can come in here like that, and it's not going to file that part right there. It's also good for saving fingers too, trust me on that. So that's a fine file. They're also going to come in different kinds of shapes. Usually I recommend people, if they're going to have one hand file, they should get an 8-inch half-round ring file. What that means is it's a half-round shape. It's got a dome on one side and a flat on the other. And that way they can use a flat side for anything that's going to flat or outside of a curve. So you're going to go outside a curve like that. If you go inside your ring, you can go in like that. And try and go with a medium cut. So maybe something like a 2 or a 3, right down the middle. That way you're getting the best of kind of removing material quickly, but it's not so rough that you can't go in with some sandpaper and just take it right out. So a half-round ring file is really great to have. And there's all kinds of different shapes. Here's a crossing file. That's going to have like a low dome and a high dome. And one thing to note too is the coarseness is going to be a little bit different on the dome than versus a flat section. If you look at this number 2 here, you can see that it's kind of coarse right here, and a little more coarse on the dome surface. We also have triangles, squares, rounds, all kinds of different shapes. And you just want to match the shape to whatever job you're trying to do. And that's why you can go into a needle file set. A needle file set has a really large range of different shapes, and usually find 3 or 4 that you really like to use and use those quite a bit. They'll come again in different coarsenesses from a low number to a high number. If you have just one set, maybe go with something in the middle. This is called an equaling file. It's also called an escapement file. So the shape is called equaling, and the overall file is an escapement file. So it's going to have a little bit longer handle and a shorter cutting area right here, which work really nice for handling and getting into tight spots. This one right here is called a riffler, and it'll have these curved surfaces which are really nice to get in and kind of get the top of something without touching anything else, which is really nice. There's also flexible files out there. These are really cool, and that you can come in here and they'll be flexible. And you can come in here and just kind of grind on something like that. And then you have diamond files for anything from really hard metals to softer materials. You can even file stone with them or glass, which is really nice. And they'll come in different sets. Now they're rated a little bit differently. They're rated by mesh and not numbers for coarseness. So mesh is kind of like sandpaper. The higher the mesh number, the finer the grit. So just remember that if you have a 240 grit, it's going to be finer than say like 120. So I hope this helps. If you have any questions, do give us a call at 1-800-545-6566 or visit us online at riogrande.com.